ready.
So everyone, this is the second session of our mentoring young lawyers program, under which we'll be connecting you with different mentors who will help you relate and have an idea of what's happening in the real world and help you navigate your career path. So with us today we have Aman Rehan, who is data privacy analysis at Scrutiny, and she is also a LAMS alumni from March of 2020. Azhar Aman, we are delighted to have you with us today, and I think we should begin with the session.
Thank you
So
so much.
to begin, could you if you give us a brief overview of your career trajectory and the positions you have held in this organization and other associated organizations?
Right. Hello everyone. I'm Aman. I am currently a data privacy analyst at Security. We are a California-based data privacy and AI compliance company. About my career trajectory, I started off at a litigation law firm in Karachi. It's called Heather Waheed Partners. After roughly a year, I went on to a corporate position at Heather Mota and Co. And then I went on to graduate school. And yeah, now I'm a data privacy analyst. So that's my trajectory from litigation, then corporate, then 1 year of graduate school. And now I'm a data privacy analyst. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. It's really impressive journey. Let's dive deeper into career progression. To start with, what motivated you to choose law as your field and study of profession when you had you were enrolling in the LUMS law degree, or even before that when you made the decision?
Yeah, I would say that like my first love was English literature. I started out as an English major actually, and in my first year, I took a number of courses, and I also took a few of the initial law courses. Um, Excuse me, can you just give me 1 minute?
Yeah,
Sorry,
sure.
there's an interruption.
Everyone is, in case you have any question for Aman during the session, please feel free to stop me and ask your questions, or you can raise your hands and I'll be calling you out.
Sorry, guys, it was a parcel. So I work remotely. So this tends to happen sometimes. Yeah. So I so I started out as an English literature major, and in my second year, I realized that while I enjoyed studying literature as a subject, I wouldn't want to, pursue it as a career. And I've always been into public speaking and O and A levels. And I did have a knack for analyzing texts. So law seemed to be the closest, field where I could really put those skills of mine to use. That is public speaking, analyzing, written texts, and even like it's a bit of a stretch, but I would say that initially I used to find all these case laws very interesting because even the case laws are kind of like, narrations. Someone's life is literally opened in front of you. So yeah, it does have that, in a way, a storytelling aspect to it. So that's why I enjoyed it uh, when I shifted to it in sophomore year. Yeah.
That's great. So could you tell us about more about your journey at LUMS? You have any tips and tricks that you would recommend the current students to use, or any myths that think need to be debunked, or pitfalls you would want these
Hmm.
students to avoid falling into?
Yeah. So, okay, so I'll just start with my journey first, and then I'll come to the other questions.
Yeah, sure.
I was very big on maintaining good academics, but also like really into my extracurriculars. So from my freshman year, I joined a sport. I joined volleyball. and I continued it throughout my 4 years, 5 years, and I eventually became, captain in my senior year. I did Lumen. I was ACD, and then I also chaired a committee. Um, and the committee I chaired, it was something I simulated out of the concept of law classes that I took. I don't know if any of you have studied the Nuremberg trials in your concept of law classes. But yeah, I kind of used that to chair a committee. I was also a part of sports at LUMS. Um, I I was best rep there for a year, so I don't know if my name is still in the sports complex, but that's also a thing that our names get engraved over there. And in my senior year, I was in the student council. So I've had a pretty like I think I always was in fourth, fifth gear throughout LUMS. I was doing a lot of things. I was doing a lot of TA-ships. I did not miss a single semester of TA-ships since junior year. Um, and in my super senior year, I was actually doing four TA-ships, like two half TA-ships in the first semester and two half TA-ships in the second semester. The reason I'm telling all this is because you guys don't have to do all this. You don't have to be like a jack of all. So even if you're like good at one to two things and you're really good at them, and you have your priorities straight, that's fine, just try to enjoy your time, make the right friends, hang out with the right people who also motivate you and put you towards the right, um, towards the right direction. And just network with your instructors. That is super important because those people will be your recommenders later on if you really want to get into grad school at an earlier stage. And if you're someone who's looking into grad school or a career in, academia, then you should look into publishing with the LUMS Law Journal, but publishing takes 1 to 2 years. So that's something, you should start thinking about in your junior year, at the beginning of junior year, stuff like that. So just make friends, make senior friends, like people who are senior to you, who've been through the same years, and they will be able to also guide you a bit more on what you should be doing or what they should have been doing when they were in your place. And yeah, try to stay in touch with your friends in other schools. I can't stress this enough. Like, just because you're in law school does not mean that you're going to end up in a law firm or you're going to go to litigation or corporate. Stay in touch with your friends from SDSP, from the econ, uh, from HSS or whatever, and attend recruitment drives. There's no harm in attending those recruitment drives as well. Just see where your interest lies. Um, and try to take courses such as, um, you know, people take DISC or they take CS courses. Those are very transferable and marketable skills. So try to see how you can, you know, get good at a few things and try to prioritize your time accordingly. Um, yeah, I think that's what I would say on the Love's
Thank you.
Journey thing.
Thank you, Aman. So you said that they should be networking with their professors. Can you give them a few tips on how they can effectively approach the professor, how they can develop the network over time, like
Yeah,
when they are studying from him, after they have studied from them? So a
yeah.
bit of tips on that.
Sure. So what I used to do is so like, let's be real, you can't don't tell your professors I said this, but doing all the readings for every single course, it's very difficult, right? So if there's one particular course that you really like, just make sure you do the readings really well for that course and participate in class. Instructors really like it when you participate. And if there was an instructor that I really wanted to, talk to after class, then I used to, while doing the readings, there have been times when I've pre-prepared questions, to ask the professor. For example, like I mentioned the Lumen thing. um, the professor who taught me concept of law, I ended up going to him and I asked him, oh, can I use the Nuremberg trials to simulate a committee in Lumen. And would you like to come and speak to the kids when they come and stuff? So that made him really think that okay, fine. She's like listening in class. She's literally applying the knowledge in class to something that's concrete, like in real life. So that's one thing. Try to come up with unique ideas how you can do that. TA-ships is a great way to get to know a professor. And RA-ships, I mean, I've never done an RA-ship, but if you can get hold of an RA-ship, that's actually the best way, I think, to network with a professor. Um, and I do think that even if you go to them during their office hours, um, I think the best way for me, so I used to struggle with that initially, talking to professors and going to them alone, and it's a bit scary. But if you have like, a buffer, maybe take an essay or something, you should have like an essay to discuss maybe, and then while you're discussing that, you can bring up other things, TA-ships, or maybe recommendations for something, or maybe it's an internship that you're thinking about and you want guidance on. So yeah, just whenever you're going to the office hours, just take a buffer with you if you're someone who struggles to find topics, and try to really like maybe do the readings and apply those things differently. So yeah, I think those are some ways, as opposed to just going up to them and talking randomly. If you have all these concrete things, then the professors really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Aman. And about the publications, so you said publishing in the law journal. So how, as students, they can make use of the law journal, who they should be connecting with to publish in those journals, and what tips you would give them so that they
Yeah,
can benefit from it.
yeah. Again, I'm going to sound very methodical, but I did not think of these things. But it just so happened that the professor that I TA'd for, Zubair Abbasi, he was heading, I don't know if he's the same professor who's heading the law journal, but he was heading the law journal at that time as well. My friends, they were the editors. So I guess again, it's your firstly, it's your network. You should know who's in the law journal. Like, firstly, just do your research. Who are the main people in the law journal, right? If it's something, um, secondly, just read on what the journal has published. That will give you an idea on the kind of writing that gets published, the kind of topics that they are looking for, right? And the other thing that you can do is you can approach these professors or the editors or whoever is in charge of the law journal, and you can ask them if they are looking for particular topics. But honestly, even if they do have certain preferences, but you have done your research in some other topic, but it's a very thorough research, um, it will get published, but it's going to take 1 to 2 years. And right now I don't know what the backlog is like for the law journal, but during my time it took like one year, right? And I was writing with someone else, so I was writing with a co-author. So if you're writing alone, then you might need to factor that into, whenever you want to apply for grad school, you'd want your article to be published by the time you apply, right? So you need to think of these things. I think the best way to do it is to actually do an SProj or some sort of independent research. There's an independent study option as well, I think. So those are the best ways to really get into it and get credit hours and manage your time, um, so that you can actually publish something. So yeah.
That's great. Can you tell us a bit more about the project and how, like, when should be targeting it, ideally which year?
Yeah, so I did my S pro. It's a senior project, so it's in the senior year. I don't think they can do it in the junior year, because that is the time when they are really introduced to the different subjects within law school. That's the first time they get a taste of law school. So I don't think
Mm-hmm.
they can do it in the junior year. The earliest they can do it is in the senior year. So the earliest, the better. And it's just good to have that clarity on what you want to write on. Because a funny story is that, again, I'm going to sound very methodical, but I guess this is how things fall into place eventually. The S project that I wrote, it was on artificial intelligence, and I wrote back in 2020, and that's when it got published. I wrote in 2019-ish. So the person from my current company who was sitting in my interview, he had read that article before, and he ended up discussing that. It's been like 3 to 4 years since then. So just make sure that, like, whatever you publish, maybe it can be something that, the career that you're interested in, it should be related to that. That would be the best thing. And try to get into it as soon as possible, which I think is senior year for these guys. Yeah.
That's great. And during your time at Lumps, did you participate in any internships or is just these co-curriculars that you have been involved in?
Yeah, I actually did internships as well. The first internship I did was in the summer after my sophomore year. That wasn't very fruitful for me, to be honest, because I hadn't taken many law courses, so I didn't know much about law, and I wasn't that well versed in the terminologies. So that was a litigation firm. I worked with Farooq Naseem. Um, in my junior year, I got two good corporate law firms. It's Or Dignam and Kabraji and Talibuddin. I don't know if we have any attendees from Karachi here, but Kabraji is really good it's a really good law firm in Karachi, and so is Or Dignam. So I got those, and in my senior year, I interned at Heather Mota and Co. And I got that internship because one of my commercial law instructors, again, this is the networking aspect, she was working there as an associate when I approached her for an internship at Heather Mota. So that's how she connected me with that. Yeah.
That's great. So you said that uh, you have shared your internship and you said your first internship wasn't that much fruitful. So which
Hmm.
time period do you suggest these students to actively apply for internships and in which time lapse do you say that okay after you have reached this many semesters and you haven't done an internship, it's time to troubleshoot.
Yeah. So I think the best time to apply for internships is from the legal law perspective is after your first year of law school. That is your junior year, right? That's when you should start applying. You still have around there's the summer of junior years, there's a summer of senior year. So you still have 2 summers where you can apply. There are also winter breaks, so you can apply for internships during winter breaks as well. I I think in the first 2 years of BA LLB, you barely take any law courses, but you can still apply uh, for internships other than legal internships. Even I would go as far as to say that, like, um, if you are someone who's, trying to see what other options are there, there are also internships offered by companies such as Khadi and I think PNG. All of these are really very competitive, yes, but if you're someone who wants to venture into that if you're someone who wants to venture down that path, then you should have some clue about it. Because I do know there is one senior of ours. She did an internship at Coke, um, and she was in law school just like all of us. And she did an internship at Coke, and then she's became a consultant at BCG, and she did her MBA at INSEAD. So this is just one example of the fact that it doesn't have to be like a law firm internship, right? Um, so yeah, I think okay, we have there
You
someone
have a
has
question?
raised their hand, so
Yeah, I think
yeah.
now we should move towards the students. Anam, please have the question.
Aman, I wanted to ask what exactly does your role as a data security analyst involve?
So as a data privacy analyst, I basically look at data privacy and artificial intelligence laws all over the world, and I inculcate that analysis into a product that is being offered by my company. So we offer a software, it's a platform that allows companies around the world to comply with data privacy obligations, right? This can include data breach, consent, different impact assessments.
Mhm.
So for like, I feel like you guys, the most basic example I can give right now is, for example, if you visit a website and you see that option of accepting cookies, rejecting cookies, I'm sure most of you have seen
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
So that's just one of our roles as well, because different countries around the world, they have different laws and regulations on the text that is to be shown in even that privacy policy or that cookie banner, right? So
Yeah.
that's within our consent module. So that's just, so it's like, basically we're helping companies, we're giving them legal advice on how to
Ye-
comply with data privacy laws.
Yeah, because I'm working in a similar area because like I have
Yeah.
done like a lot of research on trying to develop a product design that would protect someone's, privacy. Because
Hmm.
पाकिस्तान में ये बहुत बड़ा problem है,
Yeah.
especially if you are in an area where you don't have you already know that पाकिस्तान में legal legislation बहुत slack है. तो
है ही नहीं,
उस
डेटा प्राइवेसी
हाँ
लॉ
है
हमारा
ही
नहीं
नहीं
पास हो गया।
नहीं
हम्म।
है and there is no as such
हम्म।
legal structure or legal design as to
या
आप अगर किसी को आपने फाइल करना है against somebody or whatever, there is no concrete mechanism to actually report that. तो मैं उसी design
हम्म।
structure पे काम कर रही थी. So
ओह,
if you are working in
दैट्स
like a
इंटरेस्टिंग।
software company, so it's going to be great कि हम लोग collaborate करें.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can reach out to me whenever. I'd really like that.
Are you based in Lahore?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
All right.
Okay, so moving towards the next question, we have one question in the chat box from Ishmael. He's asking that what did you study in grad school? So I think let's move towards that side
Sure.
then.
Yeah. So I studied intellectual property and cybersecurity and a bit of corporate law as well. The reason why I couldn't do like a very specialized LLM is because I wanted to also have subjects for the New York bar. So that has separate requirements. Um, and sometimes the requirements of the New York bar, like the kind of courses you need to be eligible for it, they are not in line with the requirements of the specialization, right? So yeah, I was very much into IP and technology, and that's what I studied at GW.
Okay, Aman, that's great. So during your graduate studies, you had a Fulbright scholarship as well. So could you
Yeah,
tell the students some more about how they can acquire this Fulbright scholarship, when they should be applying for it, and what tips you would
yeah,
want to share them while they're preparing for it?
yeah. So I'm there. I'm sure you guys have gotten a lot of advice on this from a lot of people, and there's so much out there. But I'm going to tell you guys to be very methodical about this. आप लोग अपना बेशक account बना लें Fulbright पे, ठीक है? Go to the account, download the application form, ठीक है? And you will see the exact questions that they ask and the things that they look for. So this is the exercise that I did. I saw that they asked for student government positions. They asked for publications like in proper like journals, right? Not just any publications. They talked about like study objectives and personal statement and all those things. So just be very, laser focused on what you're going to put in those specific answer boxes, right? And if you're someone like me who was very focused on getting the Fulbright, it's not, I don't think the Fulbright is for everyone because there is the requirement of coming back. But if you're someone who wants to opt for the Fulbright, it's a fully funded scholarship, and it has its own prestige, the Fulbright title. If you're someone who's interested in that, then you have to be very, you have to be very focused on how you're going to craft your application and your narrative. So you need to be very good at how you tell your story. And one of those aspects is also the kind of recommenders that you have. So your recommenders need to be people who really know you, your instructors, right? So in my case, I knew my instructors really well to the extent that they not only wrote my recommendation, they were also able to review my study objectives and personal statement, right? So I mean, if that's possible, then sure. Otherwise, you can select 2 to 3 people who you really trust to review your application. It's better to select people who have already maybe, secured the scholarship. That's also good. But even if it's someone you feel like is very competent, then they can review the application. Other than that, yeah, you should know your universities to know the exact programs you want to apply at. You can't just say I want to go to Harvard just because it's so fancy. You can't say that, right? You need to tell them that this is the professor I like, this is the course I like. So it has to be very specific because there is a lot of competition for these for the Fulbright. Recently, they have even reduced the number of seats. Who can go on the scholarship. I think during my time it was 200 or something, and now they have kind of reduced it to 100 or 150. I think so. So it's getting more competitive, and like eventually, I know that everyone will get a chance at grad school, but if you want to speed up that process, then you can sort of apply what I'm saying. Because I'm someone who wanted to just go right after grad school, right after undergraduate and get done with it, right? That's why I started working on it so much during my uh, law degree. But some people tend to go after 2 to 3 years, and that's also good if you have that sort of relevant work experience, right? That's also very desirable for many people. So it depends on your personal timeline as well. Personally, I do feel if you have 1 to 2 years of experience, that also increases your chances of getting the Fulbright.
Also, can people from different disciplines also apply, or is it that you have to have a prior background in law?
For the LLM, I do not think so. I think you can apply, but actually, I feel like that might not be a Fulbright problem. It might be a program problem. So just wherever you are applying, just try to see if it requires a bachelor in laws of laws. So
Okay. Okay.
So, just anyone has any other question, or should I put up another question? Okay. So Aman, you had a very unique experience of transitioning into the corporate sector after education. So could you navigate the students to how you planned after the law schools, you navigated your career path and you reached this specific position?
yeah. So I basically made a transition after my master's degree. So I think it was easier to leverage in that sense because because after your master's, you generally, it's people do their masters sometimes to even shift, their careers. So I had that cushion and I could talk about all the cybersecurity courses I took and all those things. Um, I do think one way you can sort of make that shift is again through your network, right? So if I were to talk from my personal experience, um, the first thing that I mentioned was my S-Proj and people like from that organization, they had read it and they had approached me like in 2021 for a position, but I couldn't join security at that point because I was working at Heather Mota, but I was still interested in security, right? So I used to really interact with all their LinkedIn posts, and I used to, just I used to basically kind of stalk them. Also on LinkedIn, there are three of my seniors who were in security at that time, and they were doing great work in the field of data privacy. So I just knew what they were up to, and I had this in my mind that eventually I would like to transition into this. The interesting part is that my current manager, he used to be in the male volleyball team when I was in the female volleyball team. So we know each other since that time, right? So I'm not someone, so that kind of gives, if you have that sort of a connection with someone, if you've made those uh, contacts during your undergrad, um, you can sort of leverage that network to get a position in a different company as well. So in my case, I would say my network really helped me, as well as my grad school experience. But I do know people who were working in this space for a year or so, and it was really easy for them to transition because while this is a corporate role and I am working with the marketing department and the engineering department and everything, it's not a law firm, but it is a very legal oriented role, I would say. So it's not as hard to transition as a lawyer to, a data privacy analyst,
I think it's
in
it's
my
it's
case.
a it's a wonderful combination. Balki, what I was thinking was कि, for actually the successful implementation of law, you do need a very good engineering design. So these
Hmm.
departments do have to collaborate with each other to come up with something that's very, very, innovative and also useful for people.
Yes, completely agreed. And it also involves a lot of project management.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I have to work on, Excel and the different product offerings. I need to be on top of those things. Um, so there are many CS terms that I have learned while working here at security. And I think that's just, the beauty of it, that you can sort of expand out of the legal side of things and really delve into the different aspects of a corporation.
Yeah.
That's great. And thank you, Aman, for sharing. So now moving towards the litigation side. Right after your LLB, you move towards litigation and then you move towards LLM. So could you share your experience in litigation and any advice you would like to give to the students who are considering to move towards litigation after LLB?
Yeah. So firstly, just thoroughly research the law firm, just know their practice, research on the partners. If there's a specific partner you want to work with, you should know. Because I think your experience at a law firm is very determinative according to the partner that you work with. So, for example, my experience at Heather Wahid Partners was very different compared to other colleagues because I was working with the founding partner, you know, Heather Saab. So I was working with him. So the kind of cases that I got and the kind of clients that I got exposure to, it was very, different compared to someone else who was working for another partner. So just know firstly what the firm does, what the partners do. Secondly, these firms are, they are not, there aren't any SOPs as such. It's a very Setia sort culture. It's mostly a one-man show. So just talk to people who are working there to get a sense of the environment at the firm. Because litigation can be a bit tricky to navigate if you don't know what you're getting into, right? So just be kind of mindful, talk to people who are already working in those places. The other thing I would say is it's litigation, sadly, it's a bit lower paying compared to other, I guess, options that you may have, at least at the beginning, right? So one way you can tackle it is to look up the Legal Transparency Project. It's on LinkedIn as well, and it was begun by a fellow alumni from the LUMS, from LUMS. I don't know which batch he was from. So he basically has made an Excel sheet where people have written down how much they get paid, what's the firm, everything. So you have all that data available to you. That is not something that I had, right? So I didn't know about the market as much as you guys might know. So just do your research on the market rates and just know how to negotiate your first salary when you're going into a litigation firm. Just know your worth as someone who's coming from a law firm, someone who's coming from a top law school. So I think there's a question.
Yeah, yes, I think we should move towards the question that Ali Faraz has. Please, Ali, go ahead.
Hello, Aman. I wanted to ask, is it better for us to go for our bar initially once we graduate, or is it better that we opt for the LLM stream? Because the law firm I'm working with right now, my senior told me that it is better that if you complete your studies beforehand, you start your litigation career.
Okay.
So,
I
do you
hmm,
think is
I
like
get where he is
bar
coming
important
from.
enough even in 2024 for good law firms in Pakistan, or do you think the LLM stream is much better for us?
So that's a good question, and I do think it depends from firm to firm. There are different cultures in different firms. Some firms are more inclined towards the bar. Um, I do think having living in Pakistani societies, there's a certain prestige attached to barrister. You can call yourself a barrister. You can market yourself that way in front of clients. So maybe from a client perspective, being a barrister is really great. Um, a bar course would be more practice oriented, and an LLM is more academic oriented. So just keep that in mind because if you're someone who wants to practice litigation, maybe just going for the bar might be the best thing for you if that is something that is being encouraged by the firm. Um, but a lot of people I know have went for their LLM, and they have also been doing just fine, right? But I would say, arguably, it does not have that much of an effect on your career as such, like in law firms, because I think it could correspond to a very slight increase in pay, maybe. But I think your main value depends, if, especially if it's litigation, your main value depends on the kind of clients you are bringing in, right? That's at the end of the day, that's what matters the most. And these degrees are mostly just tools you can use to market yourself to get those clients, right? That's why we do all these things. We want to distinguish ourselves from others. So I get why your colleague would say that, go for a bar course before you start practicing. But on the flip side, some people also like to get the relevant work experience to really understand what they want to do. So you need to ask yourself, do you just want to go for your master's? Are you that sure that you want to just because I'm assuming no one wants to do 2 to 3 masters again and again, right? That you can't keep doing your master's. So if you want to do it, might as well do it in something that you're super sure about and that you want to practice in, right? So I think you need to make that assessment on your own.
Faraz, did that question, that answer is your question, or you want some more clarifications?
Yeah, no, that answers my question. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, guys, the thing is, I can only give you, two sides, some perspective on this. But at the end of the day, it really depends on the kind of environment that you are in, and the kind of career that you are targeting for yourself as well.
Okay. So, Aman, moving towards students who are not interested in litigation. So, can you just guide them how they can secure a position like you did in the desk scrutiny what barriers they should be prepared to encounter, and how can they start building their skill profile, their network, so that it's easier for them to enter and advance in corporate roles.
Hmm. So, firstly, guys, I think this is something that wasn't taught to us, at least when we were in law school. I do think that you guys should know how to present your CVs. There is a way in which you write your CVs. I found that out very late. Like I found that out in junior year. It was when I was applying for McKinsey, and then I got to know about the McKinsey format, and the fact that you need to quantify what you're doing, and the fact that you need to have verbs and the impact for every single line in your CV. So that is something you guys can start working on, because these sort of roles, I mean, non-legal roles, they do like to see, results, percentage, um, dollar value, stuff like that in your CV, in anything that you did. I know, like, if you're a student, then of course, maybe you won't have those things, but that's where your ECAs come in. So if you're someone who, I don't know, is World Month head delegate, right? Then you can say led a team of bold 8 people to compete, stuff like that. That is something that the corporate guys really like. Um, of course, your CV shouldn't have any grammatical mistakes as well, and it should follow the right format, um, and it should have the right keywords. And I think as long as you have your leadership roles, and some work experience with TA-ship, etc., I think you should be good to go. Your GPA, I would say, does not I do not think it matters as much, but that also depends on the company. So when I was attending some coffee chats for all these consulting firms, so I went to one of these firms and I asked them if GPA was a big factor for them. And they said that it is a big factor for them because it allows them to judge how seriously a person takes their education. Now, you may not agree with that. Like you may say, oh, I take my education very seriously, but I have to work 2 jobs. That's why I can't get it. That's why I can't dedicate too much time to my GPA. There are people like that. But there are firms who really consulting firms who might, or even companies who might really look into your GPA. So, uh, yeah, that all depends on how much you've researched the place that you want to end up in, and secondly, whether you are talking to the right people who can guide you as well on these things.
Mhm. Okay, so we have a question from Mariam. I think we should take that question.
Yeah.
So Mariam is asking, are there any other firms, companies that work in the data privacy sector that we can target?
So in Pakistan, I would argue, don't quote me on this, but a data privacy analyst role, I do not believe it's being offered anywhere else. Something that is specific like ours here at Security. But I may be wrong. You can always maybe do a keyword search on LinkedIn. It is an up and coming field, so I do think maybe there are other companies that may be venturing into this. And when you're searching for these roles, it doesn't just have to be data privacy analyst. It can be like general terms, data governance, AI governance, data governance. Because most of these roles, they essentially mean the same thing, but they are phrased differently by different companies.
I hope that
Aman,
answers. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
can you send the link to the firm's vacancies so that I can apply?
Okay. Sure. I can always
Or I would
send
have
it
to
a
email
bit
you
later.
my CV? Which one would?
You can always get in touch with me on LinkedIn, and we
Okay,
can take it from there, right?
okay, okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's great. So moving back towards the education side, like you said, that there are very limited scope of data privacy at the moment in Pakistan. So, what inspired you to move towards data privacy and related side in when you were choosing your LLM? What inspirations you got? What
Yeah,
research you did?
yeah. So, yeah, like I said, if it, I think that's why grad school helped me a bit because it helped me broaden my horizons. So in the US, there is so much specialization in everything. So they not only have data privacy analyst roles, they have such specific like health data, financial data. Even to this extent, people are, specialized in this field. So that is obviously something that I did not know as much in Pakistan. And I felt like before going on my LLM, I had a very restricted view of what a lawyer is and what a lawyer does. So after taking, my cybersecurity courses, tech courses, I found out, okay, fine. So this is something that is, up and coming and in the field. And it allowed me to sort of, you know, keep my IP and tech specialization while also staying within the legal role. And I think what inspired me was also the need to just keep innovating in a very saturated job market, I guess. I wanted to try something that was different compared to my peers. So, yeah. And obviously, there was always an academic inclination towards tech and AI and data privacy ever since I was in law school. So, these things.
Okay, so we have another question from Mariam. She is asking, how relevant do you think LLM in IP is, or LLM has
So,
in
if
tech and
I'm
law?
being completely, yeah, if I'm being completely honest, I do think um it's not make or break, to be honest. My IP is intellectual property. It's a bit, it's quite different as a field from what I'm doing right now. It's just that most LLMs, they group IP and technology together. So that's why I'm able to relate it a little bit. But if I won't say that it is something that would make or break your chances for getting this job. Like most of my team, they don't have LLMs, right? A few of us have LLMs, and while it does increase your personal brand, I would say, I don't think the company only cares about how well you do their work, right? There is no such requirement of LLMs, at least at my company at this point. Yeah.
Thank you, Amal. So, what led you to choose George Washington University over other universities for doing your LLM?
So GW is ranked very high for intellectual property. And honestly, even I did not know much about GW before I actually started researching on the Fulbright and researching my specific IP related interests. So it was ranked very high for my program. It was in Washington, D.C., which is like the policy making sort of capital. So the university is right next to the IMF and very close to the World Bank as well. Um, Another batchmate of mine, he also went to GW, and he externed at the World Bank and stuff. So there are these opportunities, networking opportunities that are definitely there in that university. Also, the thing with IP is fun thing is that the people who were authors of the readings that I did in my IP course at LUMS, I got to study courses from them at GW. So it was actually like a celebrity moment for me because I was actually, um, meeting the same authors who had written all the readings that I had read in the IP course back at LUMS. So it was all these things that made me select GW as one of the options to go on grad school. And then it is Fulbright that shortlisted GW for me. So that's also a factor. on why I went to GW. There are basically four universities that you can list in your Fulbright application that are your preferences, right? So I had Stanford, UC Berkeley, NYU, and GW. So it all came down to GWU, and that's where they sent me. It depends on how much aid the university is also giving, because the Fulbright, they also want to, save a bit, and they want everyone to get the funding. So they try to look for cheaper options as well on their end. So that's also one of the reasons.
Thank you, Aman. So you said that they will be needing to have four options when they are looking at
Mm,
when they are filling in the
yeah.
future price scholarship. So any tips you would like to share with them, like these basis they should be shortlisting their
Hmm.
universities and what they should be looking out for?
Yeah, so I do think that when you're shortlisting your universities, for the Fulbright, try to stick to the East Coast. I think West Coast universities, because two of my universities were West Coast, and they did not really pay much heed to them. It could be because they are more expensive in general. So just be mindful of that. That's the first thing geographically. Second thing, I think what you can do is just look at the courses, look at the instructors, look at the ranking of all the universities that you shortlist. Don't just go for university if it's just an Ivy League or generally ranked very high. It should be ranked high for your program, the program that you want to go to, because that will be more convincing for Fulbright to shortlist you, because they will know that, oh, this person is not just selecting us for a prestigious like university. They're actually passionate about what they're doing, and Fulbright is just one tool that they're using to get there. So just make sure you really are on top of your research on the university that you select.
Thank you,
Oh,
Aman.
and also just try to so some of the universities can be very top tier, but two of them need to be safe. So just make sure that you kind of the rankings should not all be super high. Some of them need to be safe options as well.
That's a great tip. So, do you have any tips for preparing GRE exams? Like now, which time they should start preparing, how they should structure their preparations, and other any other tips?
Yeah, so the GRE, I would say, so for me personally, I started preparing in my super senior year. And I took around 3 months. I tried to dedicate 2 hours every day, but then sometimes it happens that you can't dedicate 2 hours, so I had to study on the weekends and stuff. So I would say 3 months and 2 hours every day should be good enough. I used Manhattan Prep for my math section, and I used Magoosh for the English section. And there were also study guides by the ETS, like official ETS study guides that were available. I think it was, again, just I got hold of all these study materials because some senior was circulating the study guides in a Google um, Drive, right? So I don't know if you guys have, if the same Google Drive is still being circulated. It's been a few years since then, but I didn't pay for any new sort of, study material. For Magoosh, I think you need to pay for that, but you can always split it with a friend. So my friend already had that, so I just used her subscription after she was done with her GRE. So, just basically talk to each other and try to, get these materials and um, just be focused. Know what section you need to work more on. I won't say that my score was very perfect. Like if I had a 310 because I just thought that law schools don't need the GRE. it was a more of a Fulbright requirement. It's not a law school requirement, and a 310 above should be good. But if you really want to get into a really top tier university, I mean, if you want to secure admission, it doesn't guarantee anything. Then you can maybe go for a 320 plus, but it depends on your preparation. For me, I was more focused on my English section because I knew my math wasn't good in in any case. So yeah, I just really focused on my English section. Yeah.
That's thank you, Aman. So I think let's move toward the students if they have any question. Because
Yeah.
so anybody has any question, any query they want to follow up with Aman on? It's great. So I think I don't think they have any questions. So thank you, Aman, so much. Your insights and experiences were invaluable, and we were fortunate that you gave such an insightful mentorship session with us. So we were thinking if we could have a similar follow-up session on curriculum writing, on CV writing and resume writing and other tips they could use to build a strong application profile for the future if you would be interested in that opportunity.
Yeah, of course. Sure, I would definitely be open to that. And it's always nice to give back to a university that has been so pivotal in my journey. So, and yeah, for everyone who joined, thank you so much for joining. And the fact that you guys are taking the initiative to join talks like these, I mean, it's already preparing you for a great career. I mean, I don't think I had the chance to attend such workshops. So it's good on the CSO for organizing these as well. And of course, my LinkedIn is always open if anyone wants to have a chat.
Thank you so much, Aman, for your time and valuable insights. It's been a pleasure
Thank
to
you.
speaking with you and collaborating with you for this session. I'm
Thank you
sure the
so much.
students must have
Yeah,
enjoyed the session as well.
yeah,
Thank
I
you. It
hope
was
so.
lovely having you.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye bye.